Okay, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Ecosystem Aces. I'm really excited to be joined by Katie Landaal. Katie, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I know we've been going back and forth quite some time, so I'm happy we finally got to make this happen.
Yeah, me too. And gosh, and we've been seeing each other at events and all these
All the crazy, right? It's just the
crazy.
season right now with all of the different conferences and meetings and things like that. So yeah, it's just been wild.
Yeah. So Katie Landaal is Senior VP of Global Partnerships and Ecosystems at Zoominfo, and I'm just so excited to have you on, Katie. Gosh, you have a big job. You've got a
Yeah.
lot, a lot of things to take care of. And Zoominfo is just such a powerhouse in the industry, and so just really excited to have you here, and looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, same here. I mean, yes, Zoominfo definitely is a powerhouse. I think it's challenging at times, right? Because there are so many different aspects to our entire partnership ecosystem. But luckily, I have an incredibly strong team that help and support me. I couldn't do it without them. So, yeah.
Well, that's great. That's great. Always important to have a good team, helping you so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I'd love to, maybe you could, Katie, we could start there and talk a little bit about sort of the overall, landscape of partnerships with, with Zoominfo,
Sure.
and how did partnering fit into the strategy
Yeah.
for Zoom?
Well, traditionally, partnering, just like we're seeing elsewhere, has never really been a main focus or a main driver within our go-to-market motion. And again, this is a common thing, right? Most of the time, partner ecosystems or partnerships are always kind of out in their own island, and yes, they bring a lot of value, but it was never really considered as a main pillar. Um, what I love is a lot of that evolution has changed over the last, especially 18 months. And Zoominfo definitely has shifted gears to really put a lot of investment and our best foot forward into that partner ecosystem. Not that we weren't before, but now we have even more focus on it and more leadership support and so forth. So it's been great. Um, so that's kind of how we do it today. It also affects everything from our top of funnel, middle funnel, and bottom funnel, depending on the type of partner, how we engage with them, and what type of relationship we may have. It can be a technology partner, it could be a solutions partner, or it can be a sales partner. So those are kind of our three categories that we have within our
Hmm. Hmm.
ecosystem, which is pretty common.
Yeah.
Um, our technology partners, they include all of our, cloud providers and the big names out there we all know. And then it also includes any of our, since we're in the data world, also includes our MDM and those relationships there. So the likelihood of, Informatica and Reltio and Databricks, all of those, and Snowflake, of course, which we have a very strong relationship with. They all are included within that category within the technology space. The other half of our technology group is essentially our ISVs or all of our product integrations.
Hmm.
So we have a pretty rigorous process for that. We do everything from a connector to a mutual integration. So maybe it's, surfacing each other's products in each other's platforms in some way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
And then sometimes we take it even further than that. And sometimes there's some sort of, white labeling or something like that. We did that in the past, I know, especially when we were trying to scale, which again, most organizations do. We don't anymore. So everything we have is, all rightfully ours and proprietary to us. But, it is something that's always kind of talked about at some point. Most people approach us as well. So it's kind of fun. So that's our technology group. Our solutions group, that's specific to our GSIs, our SIs, our consultancies, all the way from the mom and pop shops, all the way up into the, international, the really large guys, right? The Accentures, the Deloittes, the Capgeminis, and then down to, like I said, the mom and pop shops. And we are revamping the way that we do partnerships there. We've always been highly successful, probably in more of the enterprise space. So you're looking at more of the larger firms. However, we've been also seeing that, quite a bit of more of those mid-market or even SMB firms, they're just as impactful and fantastic partners to work with and a lot more nimble and quicker. So we are revamping that program as we speak and kind of building that out into something that's better and scalable and much more supportive of our partners versus kind of these ad hoc, trying to push these things through each of the teams and so forth. So that's really exciting to see. That's really, starting to gain some traction and move pretty quickly. And so I'm excited to see how that grows over the next, 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And then our last sales. So sales partners, we used to have a sales partner program. We had decided to actually pull that back a little bit. We saw that we just, we have these channel programs that we just did not do well, quite frankly. And that was mainly just, we didn't have a good foundation in order to, operationally do it well, right? It was always on its own island. It was always kind of not pulled into the normal day in, day out operations of the rest of the organization. So in this instance, we kind of decided, okay, we need to just pull that back a little bit, make it much more simplified, clean up the process and the experience for the partner, and then we kind of rebuild again. And what I mean by that is we're just not doing any of the tiering or, you get certain amount of go-to-market activities with us if you're at a certain level or things like that. I wanted to kind of take away from that so that we could, really focus on quality over quantity. And that's where we're highly focused in the sales organization right now. So we also have the affiliate program. We have the referral program. And that all kind of ties in together. And sometimes we have partners that cross into all paths. So it just depends on the type of relationship we have with them and whether, we're doing, some big, huge go-to-market together or not. So, yeah.
So just a few things going on.
Yes, a lot. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah. Like I said, I would not be able to get any of this done without the incredible team that I have. They are all rock stars in their own right. And just, it's amazing to me, the amount of stuff that they get done. So I would suggest anybody who is, either an IC now or is planning to be, it's great at first when you're really, doing ground up work. However, once it really starts rolling, you start to see that you clearly cannot be an IC anymore and you need that additional support.
Yeah.
Support is so important. So.
Yeah. Well, that's phenomenal. And it's, I love to dig in a little bit, so tech partners, services partners, and then sales partners. I'd love to dig in a little bit on the tech partner side. And you alluded to it, on, building solutions together, bringing, going to market together with your, tech partners.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that process. Where does that, where does it come from? Are you seeing each other in the market or do you have customers that are asking, or are you sort of proactively? Is it about sort of product strategy? Like, how does it all come together?
It's it's honestly a mixture of all of the above. Typically, if we start to engage in any, real integration with each other's products where we're surfacing up in each other's UI, we that is usually because there's either a very strong market ask for it, or there's some sort of collaboration that we see strengthens both brands because it's better together type of story, right? So that's where we see the most success. And most of the time, those are, really long time coming conversations because, there's a lot of work to be done prior. And then there's a lot of the post work as well. It takes all parts of the organization to, have some sort of part into it, I would say. But the biggest place we start, obviously, is we want customers first. And we have to kind of gauge what's more of a priority for our customers versus what's not. Sometimes some customers think that it's the most genius idea. However, and it could be,
Hmm. Yeah.
but right, we have to make sure we prioritize against, the masses almost of, what's most requested, or what makes most sense to
Right.
grow.
Is it
Yeah,
repeatable? Is it something that the
exactly.
overall market is
Yeah,
looking for?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And
And
so
then,
how do you
oh,
do
go
that?
ahead.
Are you connecting in with your, I assume, with the product teams as well, and sort of have like fitting the ecosystem roadmap
Yeah.
within the product roadmap?
Yeah, so we work very shoulder to shoulder with our entire product team.
Hmm.
And I'm sure some folks know Zoominfo has quite a few different products within our entire suite.
Yeah.
So we have different leaders on each of those pillars of products, which is fantastic. And we essentially meet with them regularly to make sure that we as the partner team are on the same page as the product team, so that we're running kind of all of the business aspect, right, of that integration. And then they're only concerned about the actual work itself, right? The engineering development, the design of
Hmm.
it, that type
Hmm.
of stuff. So it also frees up their time, so they're not having to get bogged down by what should the messaging be with marketing, or where should we take this, or how should we advertise this, or how do we train our customers, and how do
Hmm.
we train it internally, and all the minutia of that, of basically, product management, falls mostly on our team, with the help, of course, of the product team and product marketing team.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Interesting. So you essentially you have some folks within your team that
Mhm.
are, in a way, product managers, product marketers. Is
In
that
a way,
right? Yeah.
I would say that they more along the lines act as a quarterback.
Hmm.
So they really hold the relationship of Zoominfo to that partner, as well as holding the relationship from the partner to Zoominfo. So they're kind of that representative on both sides.
Hmm.
And they're really more of the coordinator and making sure that all the little pieces are falling together. Of course, yes, they are a part of those strategic conversations, and yes, they, obviously have very strong input and so forth. However, at the end of the day, right, it's really up to product, because it's product's, decision. But we're just here to really facilitate and help and guide, the entire process, so that it doesn't, fall off, or we
Hmm.
miss things, or, we didn't think about a different angle because maybe, product is only thinking in one silo. Who knows? We're kind of there to bring in more of the big picture and bring all the various pieces together.
Hmm. Yeah. And how do you work with the product teams to make sure that, because, Zoominfo, you have your product roadmap, you have
Yes.
direction places where you're planning to grow. And do you have some sort of white space areas where you say, okay, well, we're not going to go in this direction. We'll let partners kind of and sort of protect that for them? Or is there
Yeah. Interesting how we do
sometimes some
this.
potential conflict that comes up?
Exactly, right? There's
Yeah.
sometimes potential conflict depending on timing and how long, it may take for that integration, or what the case may be.
Hmm.
Most of the time, what we try to do is, we obviously know where we're going long term. Our partners do not. So
Hmm.
that also is the job of the partner team, to make sure that it aligns with what our long term vision is, so
Hmm.
that we're not wasting time. It might be great now, but not really great in the future.
Hmm.
So that it's definitely a balancing act, right? We have to, manage our transparency and, strategy to our partner, but at the same time, we have to reserve some of that for our own secret sauce that we do on our own, for our own things, right? And every
Right.
organization is like that, right? We all have a little bit of the behind the curtain stuff.
Sure.
But for us, we do quarterly prioritization. So we try to prioritize against that. We look at what everything we're doing internally for ourselves and for our own product, as well as what we've agreed to, both between, the leadership, product, and partner, and then
Hmm.
slotting those in accordingly. And obviously there's movement. Sometimes some things get prioritized over others. And most of the time, if that happens, it's because there's some sort of um, large market ask, or there's some sort of strategic, go to market play that we have together, or something along those lines, that it just makes the most sense for us to essentially, be married in the market, as I say.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we do it. But it's ever evolving, right? It's not something that's black and white, unfortunately. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize. There's just a lot of aspects to it. And you have to be able to kind of, again, look at all the pieces, right? And really drive the organization to the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Like, 6 or 9 months ago when Gen AI sort of like
Oh, yeah.
blew everybody away. It's like, okay, well, let's
Yeah.
reprioritize all those.
Well, the interesting thing about Gen AI is, right, I mean, it's been around. This isn't a
Yeah.
new thing, or at least
Right.
AI, let me rephrase. AI
Yeah.
has been
Yeah.
around for a long time. Gen AI is just kind of the new, coined term out there right now.
Yeah.
But yes, that is the top of everyone's mind. It was all anybody talked about at Dreamforce. And so I think it's interesting to see how a lot of different organizations are coming together and partnering on how to, make each other better while at the same time being better for their customers.
Yeah.
But still differentiating themselves from each other, right? So maybe utilizing, the AI in a slightly different way so that it's not, impeding on that relationship or anything like that.
Yeah.
At the same time, we're seeing a lot of tech consolidation too. So with that, right, a lot of people are trying to pull it all together. So it's a very seamless workflow that it flows really well into their organization, that everything is very automated because that's kind of right. AI, everybody wants everything automated and running right now. And so it's, again, a balance of trying to figure out what does this look like now versus the future and how are we fitting into this? And again, aligning not only with product, but our chief technology officer as well. And then, of course, talking to our CEO and president and on top of, our entire go-to-market, our CRO and things like that. So it's kind of getting alignment across the board and pushing in that direction so that, we stay within the guidelines that we want to be.
Yeah. So fascinating, really cool.
I literally could talk about it for so long. It's really bad.
Yeah, I mean, just so much going on. So you've sort of gone through the process. You've worked with product teams, prioritize. You worked with partners, and now you've built some solutions. Got something that's ready to go to market. Let's talk about the go to market side. Sort of,
Yeah.
Co-marketing activities, aligning up those events and other activities, campaigns that you have going on,
right?
And then getting into the co-sell side as well.
Yeah. So what I'll say to that is on the marketing side, I'm very lucky that our CMO is very partner centric. He loves partnerships. He thinks it's a great thing and that it can do a lot of things, not only for revenue, and customer satisfaction, but also does a lot for branding and messaging and content and all the things, right?
Yeah.
And so it's great that he, has allowed us or has created a team specific to partner marketing. So we have a team within the marketing organization that all they do and all they work on is, messaging, collateral, events, and then how does this fit into the rest of our marketing efforts, which is great. And so it's really nice to see that. I think for me, I've always said it's better to have folks that are dotted line to you, right? Because they're more connected to what everybody else is doing versus them going and just trying to have meetings to figure out, oh, what is happening? Okay, great. Like, let me take this back. And then, right. It's a lot easier for them just to be part of the marketing team, for example, to already know what's on the roadmap, to already know what's coming up. And they can say, hey, we have a partner that this might be great for, or, hey, if we're looking for a speaker, we've got this partner channel as well that, we have a ton of leadership support in, and so forth. And so it's pretty interesting. I think that's the strongest way of doing it. And then when it comes to the go-to-market motion, you really have to find the right messaging so that customers don't get confused on the partnership, because you never want them to think, well, why am I using one versus the other? Or why do I need to use them together? They're like, similar because they're all in the, go-to-market B2B tech stack. They're all MarTechs, they're all sale techs, right? And so that's where it's really, really important to differentiate yourself and really make sure that that messaging is very, very strong and very black and white as to what the partnership means, what it's delivering to the customer, and why it's important, in the market today. When you start making it too loose, that's where you run into trouble, at least in my opinion. I'm a very transparent, person when it comes to our partnerships. What I've seen out there before is, they're going to market and they're saying all these things, but it's a bit of a generalized statement. And then when you get into the nitty gritty, you've got your customers saying, well, that's not what it said, or I thought it meant this, or, whatever that is. And so that's why I really, truly believe in a very, very clear, direct message so that there's no confusion.
Yeah. That is smart, because you're right. It's, there are so many, what's one of the challenges I think of partnering is that there are areas where it really makes sense to partner, but there can be, that's the whole co-opetition issue, right? It's like there are areas where a little bit of overlap over there, and how do we make sure that we differentiate and make it clear to customers,
right? That this is the partnership that we have. We are not, it's not mixed in with this, or, whatever that looks like. Yeah, I think messaging is key for sure.
Yeah. So, and then how about co-selling? Getting the sales team
co-selling. Yeah. Okay. So co-selling is fantastic when it works well. I think a lot of partners are well-intentioned when it comes to co-selling, but we all know salespeople. I love you salespeople out there if you're watching this, but they're one-track mind. It's hard for them, and it's no fault of theirs. It's hard for them to think about partners in their conversations and co-sell unless there's some sort of regular activity or regular reminder of what's going on, which is why I think, some of the tools out there today that have come out that are now surfacing that kind of information directly into Salesforce so that those sales folks can see it firsthand, is phenomenal and game changer, right? Because before it was a lot of this, hey, AM, I've got this partner AM that wants to talk to you. Can you guys talk together? And then they all kind of don't know what to say, and they don't really know how to co-sell, or they don't really know what to talk about as far as their customers go. And so what's nice is now it's a lot of that automation is happening for them. And then they're coming more to the partner team to say, hey, this was a great co-sell motion. Is there any way that we can expand in this other area or this different segment, or, whatever that looks like. And that's where the partner team can help facilitate that, versus us just being, a receptionist of basically, let me connect you to this person. Let me connect you to this person. Right. Like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
I think also Slack nowadays too has been great for co-sell, especially when you get two organizations together, as long as you have dedicated people obviously managing those messages and making sure that they're getting responded to and people are connecting and so forth. But it's definitely a step in the right direction, it seems like.
Slack Connect is pretty amazing, because it makes it feel like you're just all part of the team.
Right.
So that's phenomenal. And I agree with you. I think but the sales teams, they have a hard job.
They do 100%. And it's not a knock on them, by the way. I just mean it of like, they have so much on their plate, and so
many things coming in. Like,
it's hard. It's hard to really think about co-selling, but I think, again, with enablement partner, and as well as some of those automations with tools that are coming out and things like that, it seems like there's a much better shift with co-selling. That's really cool to see. And I think as long as both parties are really genuinely active in that and also dedicated to it, it can be really successful between both parties.
Yeah. And I think once you get that sort of, you prime the pump and get the flywheel going, and then there's some either institutional knowledge or whatever. It's like people are like, oh yeah, this partner was really great to work with,
So
it's fantastic. Terrific. So gosh, Katie, this has been it's 24 minutes. We're already into this, and I can't believe it. I feel like we just barely scratched the surface.
I know. I feel like literally in all of these different areas, I could just go into much detail, but for another time.
Well, yes, for another time. And, I'd love to, maybe one last question or thought. I'd love to, you've been doing this for a while. And
Mhm.
has there been anything that, um, because, and now as you're leading a team, right, it's like you're
Yeah.
not hands-on. So what are the things that you, as a partner leader, that you help, you sort of convey to your team to keep them going in the right direction,
Yeah.
make sure that they sort of learn from you, but they've still got to learn themselves as well and make
Right.
mistakes and all that. So,
Yeah. So I came early in my career, I was very much an IC. And so it was hard for me to transition into full vulnerability here. It was really hard for me to transition to a leadership role
mm-hmm.
some time ago because I was just so used to doing it myself. And,
Yeah.
I was going and going and going. I was like the Energizer bunny. What had happened though is as well as I thought I was doing on my own, there were things that were falling off or not moving as quickly as they should have because I'm only one person, right? There's no
Mm-hmm.
way I would have to, you know, um, do it all on my own. And so as, my career went on and I started managing more and more people, I really learned it's more about delegation and prioritization and transparency with your team. So as long as they are on the full same page as you and you're constantly updating them on either conversations that you're having with leadership or externally that maybe, for example, at Dreamforce, I have, debrief meetings with each of my leaders on my team to kind of give them the rundown of who I talked to, what we talked about, and just so that they know we're all on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is really, really key to being a strong partner leader. And I think it's also, you have to be very good at seeing, like, I'll keep going back to this, but the big picture, being able to pull all the different levers so that it goes in that, motion that, or that direction that the organization needs to do, or the leadership wants to do.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
you're kind of you're like the conductor of the train, and you're like trying to make sure all the little pieces work so everything's running.
Yeah.
So it's nice. Yeah.
That's
It's
great.
fun too. It's
Yeah.
challenging, but it's very fun.
Yeah.
So
Delegation, prioritization, transparency.
transparency. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are
I
probably
love that.
my three top ones. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's such great takeaways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem. Happy to help anytime.
Yeah, yeah. So, Katie, thank you so much for taking some time and sharing just all the incredible things happening at Zoominfo and your sort of personal journey as well, and leadership principles
Yeah.
have been really helpful. So,
Not a problem. I'm
yeah.
happy to be here. Always happy to come anytime. And, I'll talk your ear off if you want me to.
All right. This has been great. Fantastic. So,
Yeah.
Katie, thank you so much again
Of course.
for joining, and thank you all for joining as well. And so I think with that, we'll sign off and say see you next time at
Yeah.
another Ecosystem Aces. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.